Hey everyone, this is Dave Pike, Motorcity Mechanic, and I'm back with another video. Now today we're going to be talking about replacing the water pump on a Dodge Ram Cummins diesel engine. Now it's going to apply to 5.9s and also 6.7s. Fundamentally they're exactly the same. The only difference is how we access it. There's a couple more things we might need to take off to get from one to the other. But nonetheless, if you watch this video, you should be able to tackle both of them. Now typically what happens is you get a coolant leak, you isolate it as a water pump, or the other scenario is the bearings go out on the water pump, eventually the pulley starts getting out of position and the belt comes off. Nonetheless, either way, you're going to be replacing a water pump. In this case, we had excessive coolant loss. It was getting all over the serpentine belt and it saturated the belt, so the belt's getting replaced as well. It's going to be a couple additional steps to take the belt off versus the typical water pump, but I'm going to show you how we're going to be doing that. The main thing we need to do first so we can get access is we need to start taking the air filter box off, and at the same time we'll start draining the coolant. Now a 5.9 air box is a little bit easier to take off than some of the late model 6.7s because the late model 6.7s have a door built into the lower half, so there's an electrical connector going to it. This one's going to be a lot simpler. All we're going to worry about is a 10mm nut right here we'll back off, and also the rubber boot where the air inlet going to the turbo is. We'll back off on the clamp right here, take it off. You can actually unsnap the upper half and just sit it to the side. We only have to disconnect anything electrical. Sit it back to the back corner, and then we'll worry about taking the bottom off. Now when we get ready to take the bottom off, one thing we need to pay attention is to the overflow neck right here where the radiator cap goes. Last thing to do is when you're trying to get it up and getting those plastic fingers out of the bushings that holds it on the bottom, want to come up and hit that little nipple right there and break it off. So definitely take care when working around the radiator. Now we've got that 10mm nut off, we'll work on getting that band clamp off the rubber elbow. And just wiggle it a little bit. There we go. That's sitting off to the side. Now we're just going to go around the perimeter and make sure all the metal snaps have been released. Once those are off, we can separate the upper half. Like I said, we're not even going to have to disconnect anything electrical. All we're going to do is just reposition it up out of the way. We're not going to be working in this area, so everything's going to be good. Just make sure your exhaust is cold because we're laying it over here. If not, just sit it up here by the battery and that'll be fine. Like I mentioned before, watch out for that neck right there where that nipple is for the overflow bottle. Now we're going to be trying to pick up. We're going to take a little bit of force because they are rubber bushings that the fingers have to come out of. Try to come up as straight as possible. That way you don't risk breaking those fingers off. There we go. Now when you look at the bottom of the box, you'll see you got a plastic finger here and here, and there's corresponding rubber bushings further down. Now with that airbox assembly out of the way, we've got direct access to the water pump. We're going to be working on it from this side, and we're going to be taking it out from this location as well. One thing you want to do at this point is you want to go ahead and make you a diagram of how the serpentine belt is routed. I'm going to give you a diagram no matter what, so you'll have that. But usually as a rule of thumb, what's recommended if you're going to be taking the belt off, or if you're even taking one of the accessories off, such as the water pump, and you're taking the belt loose, you want to know which way it's routed. So go ahead and get your scratch piece of paper, put some circles, draw some lines, label what components what so that you'll know. That way you don't have to scramble at the end when you're trying to put the belt on and you don't have it right. It's too long, it's too short. You'll have that information. But like I said, I got your back. I'm going to give you a diagram. Now the radiator drains on the left side of the radiator on this particular year, make, and model. The only one that will be different is the 6.7 late model that has the two radiators. That will be on the right side. This one's on the left side, and the rest of them should be as well. Now they may look slightly different in appearance. Some will be a hex shaped. This one actually has just got a flat portion right here. You grab your fingers and rotate. Just make sure you got a container up under to catch everything. Now once this is done draining, we'll go ahead and close that drain. And the whole main reason for doing this is because when we take the water pump off, we just don't want antifreeze to go everywhere. This is the lowest point in the system. We'll get it drained out. So when we do take the water pump off, it'll be a lot less of a mess. So this is the location of the water pump. If you look directly up and to the side, you got your alternator right here. You've also got where the air filter box was right here. And then you got your radiator and radiator filler cap that we mentioned earlier. Water pump has a smooth pulley on it. Held in place with two 10mm bolts and has a really thick rubber seal and a metal impeller on it. As you can see right here on the bottom, that's your weep hole. That's where the coolant will leak out from time to time. And it's pretty much located directly like this. Now, as you just saw in the early Model 5.9, you've got good access to it because the fan shroud isn't real deep. But if you're going to be dealing with late Model 5.9s such as this or 6.7, I want to show you how you can get a little more room. It's got a collapsible rubber type fan shroud, and we've got brackets in the upper corners as well as the lower corners. And what we're going to do is we're going to take the nut off of one of those brackets, push the fan shroud forward, and put a spacer in there. Let me go ahead and show you that. So if you are working on late Model 5.9, 6.7, you'll be able to get that access to the water pump, much like we did on the early 5.9. So what we're going to do is go ahead and back off on that 13mm nut. So to get it off, we're just going to sit it somewhere where we won't lose it. And now we have the ability to flex that rubber fan shroud. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to wedge it. Just a generic 1/2-inch socket I got. This one just happens to be a 15mm. It's about 1.25 inches deep. I'm going to push back and I'm going to kind of wedge it there. Now it's actually gave me that much more depth to get down into that water pump. So that's what's going to give me my ease of access. And when it comes time to relieve the tension on the Serpentine belt, you got a different set of tools you can use depending on what you already have. There is a 1/2-inch square hole in the end of the tensioner, so you can actually use a 1/2-inch ratchet. And so you've got a little leverage, you could actually use a wrench on it as well. That's what I like to use from time to time. Another option I've got here is your basic Serpentine belt tool. This one is actually 3/8 drive on the end, but I've got another bar that has 1/2-inch drive, so I can get in there at different odd angles. Now the method of getting in there is up to you. You can do it from up above or you can do it from down below. We're going to go ahead and do it from up above today, and we're going to go ahead and use this tool right here. It's a typical, simple Serpentine belt tool you can pick up at your local auto parts store. But like I said, if you're not going to do this job often or you don't take a lot of belts off, you can get away with your 1/2-inch drive ratchet. Now that Serpentine belt tensioner we're going to be relieving the pressure on is directly below the water pump, directly below the alternator. And near the end where the pulley is where that 1/2-inch hole is that you would either put your 1/2-inch ratchet, or like I mentioned, if you're going to be using your belt tool, you put the 1/2-inch drive right there up in there. Now when we go to release the tension, what we're going to do is we're going to be rotating it this way. So basically clockwise. You'll be putting the whatever tool you're using and you'll be pulling down, that releases the tension, take the belt off, and then release the tension and take the tool off. So you will be doing it clockwise, looking at the front of the engine. I've got my tool installed. Go ahead and go clockwise, and as you can see, it releases the tension on the belt. I can actually pull the belt off of the alternator. I can just back the tool and remove it. Now that we've released the tension and got the belt off of the pulleys, what we're going to do next is take that Serpentine belt tensioner off. Now if I wasn't replacing the belt, I would stop here. But being that I am, and the way that it's routed around the pulley, I need to take it off. Now it's a 13mm bolt on the end. Let's go ahead and back that out with a ratchet wrench. And then you now still get a close-up look of what the tensioner looks like off the truck. You can see the 1/2-inch hole on the end. So there we go, got the tensioner out. You look on the end here, that's that 1/2-inch hole I mentioned. Now the reason why we had to take it off if we're doing the belt is because of the way the belt is routed. The belt loops around here, and the problem is getting it off of the pulley, because mind you, it's bolted up against the timing cover and the clearance is very tight, much like what you see here. So trying to get the belt to come off is practically impossible. So going ahead and taking the 13mm bolt loose and taking it out of the way is your easiest way of doing it. And once you do that, you've got a little more access to getting that water pump as well.